Let's get right into it. I had 2 losses today and lots of learning to be had. You'll see that I have a bunch of bearish order blocks and whatnot in here, which were depicting my entries. I would like to show you guys what I was looking at when I was trying to enter. So off the bat, I immediately married the bias that we were going to be bearish and fill this new week opening gap. That's what I always like to see. One thing that I completely neglected is that even if, hypothetically, you are going to fill the new week opening gap, there's nothing to say that it will happen at the beginning of the week versus the end of the week. 2, I always trade with the bias, always. That's like I either trade at the high time frame bias or I trade off of a really beautiful setup of PO3. And neither of those things showed up today, so I shouldn't have been trading. But still, I did. So let's go over exactly what I fucked up. So right here, what I had was, actually we're gonna go and get rid of all the drawings just so I can make this simple. This was a bearish order block on the 4-hour that I was interested in. Now, what we waited on, what I was talking about earlier in the Discord today, was that we didn't cross it here, and I was like, maybe I missed an entry, but we didn't cross it, so I was like, all right, maybe we'll be all right. Then we get a market structure shift, and I enter right here. We have this market structure shift right here, and I'll put the entries up in just a second, but market structure shift and order block, and I entered, and I got stopped out. And I was like, that's stupid. I should have just waited for it to sweep out this liquidity right back here, which is where my mind should have been. Oh, well, we have relative equal highs right here. This would make for great buy side liquidity, given that we have an SMT. And if you look, this would make for a pretty solid SMT. I don't know about you, but the NASDAQ and the S&P are actually diverging significantly more than I was expecting. Given that, we can go ahead and get rid of these open levels just so that we can make this chart a little easier to view. But I had that, and so then I was like, and so then I was trying to justify a second entry because at this point I was like, well, I'm bearish, so I'm gonna justify another entry because I take 2 entries a day. It's typically like my limit is I'll take like 2 a day. So I'm waiting, and I actually don't wait for that to get taken out. What I wait for is, I think I just waited for one of these in here. I waited for, oh God, I hate going between time frames this much. I waited for something smaller. It was like this high or something. It was a shorter time frame, or it was a just less dependent buy side liquidity, and then I was like, oh well, we had a market structure shift right in here. It was this, and then we had a beautiful return to OTE and this unfilled order block right here, and I didn't get stopped out until this candle right here, and then price continued up. So yeah, there was a lot to unpack here. 1, our 4-hour was not matched up. 2, if we go ahead and open up the PO3 today, our PO3 was bearish, but unless you want to call this a Judas swing, this entire thing, it's not a very good PO3 setup. It's just not ideal. And this was our low of day. On S&P, it may have set up significantly better. That's if I just had to imagine, yeah, right off the bat, we drop down below, we move up, we could have had an entry in here, and then we moved up, and there was another entry in here, but it was choppy. Today wasn't good either way, and I don't typically trade MES. So it was kind of a thing, honestly. Today was not something I was super proud of. I completely ditched my rules. I typically only trade when the high time frames are aligned, and I like to see congruence across my across what I'm looking for. And I lost like $50 today, so I didn't really lose a whole lot, but still, that's like a sixth of one of my last win. But still, like this shouldn't have been a loss that had happened. I should have had a much more straightforward win today, given that the setup was really, really straightforward. It was really not that complicated. The 4-hour was bearish, and given that, I should have just been like, all right, well, that's it, I guess. I guess I'm just not doing anything today. That should have just called it. Or if I really wanted to trade, or I really felt the need, there was one solid trade that I could have taken, and you can see it right here. This is our typical trade setup. We're bullish on the 1 hour, we're bullish on the daily. The only thing we weren't bullish on was the 4 hour, but let's say we're neglecting that and we don't have a PO3 setup. So basically what we're looking at this point is we drop down to the 15-second and we're looking for a drop below this order block. I'm going to go ahead and give us a hint real quick. This is an SMT. I'm almost certain from my setup this morning what this is between 7:30 and 9:30, and the same lows over here between 7:30 and 9:30. Yep. All right, sweet. So beautiful SMT, prominent, saying that MNQ is leading, and it doesn't look like we would have had an entry, honestly. It looks like we have a market structure shift all the way up here, which makes this pretty irrelevant, and we wouldn't have really had much of an entry after that. So honestly, there wouldn't have been much of a reason to say, oh, hey, look, we could have a great entry today. Like, there was nothing to say that that was the case. The only way we would have done that is if we like really stretched things, which I don't do this, but this looks like OTE in my opinion. This right here looks like OTE. Yeah, it is. We fill the OTE range and then bounce back up. But this would have been your ideal move. And using my strategy that I typically like to trade with, I wouldn't have caught it. Also, if you look right here, we had a singular wick into the order block, which I talked about yesterday isn't a proper validation. So overall, it wouldn't have been a setup. And if you look at the PO3 setup, our PS3 setup said we were bearish. So today honestly just wasn't a day I should have traded. Well, I shouldn't have traded at all, and I still did. So that was definitely disappointing on my end. And that was I'm definitely I've been reflecting on this all day. I guess not all day, but I've reflected on it and kind of looked back at it and been like, okay, I need to learn from this and not make this mistake again. Other than that, it's kind of it for me. I think one thing that I did really well with today was the fact that I didn't like get upset once I lost. I lost this money, and I specifically have been trading with one micro recently just because I can see that and not care about the loss. Like that money doesn't really make a difference to me. It's kind of just like, okay, whatever. And then when I win like $300 I win like 250 to 300, or I guess like 200 to $300. And that also doesn't feel like crazy to me. I don't get like super excited over it or anything. So I think I'm going to try and use that to my advantage while I try to grow this paper account, and then going into the summer when I try prop accounts. So yeah, but that's kind of it for me today. Hope you all had a better day than I did. And I will be back at it tomorrow. I think we don't have news tomorrow, if I remember correctly. I may be totally wrong though. Let me go ahead and check. Today we had a little bit of news. Tomorrow, yep, there's no news. Thursday we have PCE prelims and unemployment. Friday we have nothing. So yeah, no news tomorrow, and we will see how we trade then. Anyways, I hope you all had a good day. I will see you all tomorrow. Have a good one. Thanks for watching.